Welcome to the Liberated Feminine Podcast. I'm Lucy Lampy, your host, and in today's episode, we're exploring 5 things a liberated woman does in relationship. Now, you have probably noticed or experienced firsthand that there is a big distinction, a big felt, like literally in your body, in how you experience your relationship, a big difference in whether you are approaching your partnership from a space of, let's call it, lack, scarcity, fear, anxiety, maybe more of the fear-based, programming in your nervous system. Not to make anyone wrong here. This is not your fault any more than it was my fault that I had all these ingrained patterns in my nervous system that I got to unravel within relationship. But there's a big difference between that and when you can be in your heart's liberation, where you can embody more of the range of who you are as a woman, as a human being, and being able to bring that into your relationship with a sense of trust and embodied safety. So that is a massive journey that we are essentially on throughout our whole lives. So it's not like we ever arrive there. In fact, a lot of times the wounds that we carry, the relational wounds that we carry, it's not about them ever completely healing, but about softening the charge around it. It's like if you see a scar on anywhere on your body, let's say I have, a scar on my leg, and that reminds me of a really traumatic experience that I had in my childhood, and all of this emotion is charged around it. Well, the more healing I do around that, right? It's not just that time heals, because time doesn't heal shit. The healing process heals the wound. And so over time, that the stories around what that scar means, what it represents, my identification with my victimhood and my wounding and my pain softens and dissolves, and just the whole experience, my perception of that experience shifts. That scar may never go away. It'll just be a part of my body for as long as I'm in this body. But the charge around it softens. So I feel like a lot of times the emotional wounds and the things that have happened to us, whether it's a little T trauma or a big T trauma, it's not about completely healing something, but about really softening the charge around it so that you can live. So that's what I'm talking about when in relationship, you may have had some big wounds in the past. And now, in whatever relationship you're in now, it is meant to free you more, not meant to re-traumatize you or meant to, keep you in a vicious cycle of pain. So I hope to give you a little glimpse into what it's like to operate within a relationship from a place of liberation, and just feel the contrast in this against, what you may be experiencing, to hopefully give you a different possibility. And also, secondly, perhaps this will help to reveal to you where you are living in your liberation in your relationship, and to celebrate that about yourself. So this is not an expansive list by any means, but these are just the top 5 things that came to me to share with you today. So the first thing that a liberated woman does in a relationship is nurture her identity outside of the relationship. Whether this be your interests that are just yours, maybe you like to do a certain activity and your partner is either just kind of whatever about it or completely closed to it, that's okay. You maintain a semblance of your community, your sisterhood, your friendships. Nurture that no matter how amazing and beautiful and healthy your relationship is. This is absolutely critical in maintaining the health of that beautiful, healthy relationship. And a part of this too is intentionally creating the spaciousness that you need to do that. This does not mean that, we need to take extended periods of time away from each other as partners, for example, or that there needs to be a physical physical space, a big, distinct physical space difference, but even just an energetic spaciousness. When you have that space to be in your own energy and to really nurture, okay, who am I? Who am I in relation to spirit, to creation, to God, to source, to universe? Who am I in relation to, my ancestry, where I came from, in relation to who I see myself becoming? What is that vision, that higher vision for myself? And anchor in deeply into love. Ask yourself, what does that look like for me? What does it look like for me to be the next level embodiment of love in my journey? Not comparing myself to my partner, because then I think a lot of times the tendency is to over-identify with the relationship when it is its own entity. There's you, there's your partner, and then there's the relationship. And ideally, if you're both nurturing and nourishing yourselves, you are nurturing and nourishing each other from a space of self-fullness, from a space of, I don't want to say a full cup, because I think that gives the wrong illusion. It's like you can't give unless you're completely, filled up and feeling brimming with joy and energy and love. But if you imagine yourself more as a conduit of love, a channel, a vessel, and that love is constantly flowing through you, your job is to gauge, how strong is that flow today? Am I barely feeling a trickle? Or is it a pretty steady flow? And if it's not a very strong flow, or I really want to tap in more, this is where number 2 comes in. The second thing a liberated woman does in relationship is she consistently engages in what nourishes her. Often when I feel like I'm operating more at a trickle and I feel my nervous system physically kind of just being more in a contracted energetic state, or I feel my nervous system being more on edge, or I'm more irritable, one of the first things that I check in with myself is, okay, what is that flow of love doing right now? How much am I feeling that? And then have I been nourishing myself today, this week, this season? Am I doing the things that nourish me? And right, what do I need right now? If I need more nourishment right now, maybe there is something that I can ask of my partner, like, hey, can you just be with me for a moment in this activity? Can you support me in this way? Can you just give me a hug? Can you just give me more hugs today? Can you please hug me more today? There is that piece of recognizing that that we do need each other, that we do need support. I'll get to that later more. But also the self-inquiry of, okay, maybe there's something that I have not been doing for myself. And how does my spirit or my body or my mind need nourishment right now? And this is why I return to my consistent practices like self-pleasure, like movement, free-flowing movement, dance, listening to music and just dropping into my body and grinding or twerking or just unleashing some energy that feels pent up. Because these things are very nourishing to my nervous system. It's opening up more of that flow of love, where otherwise I will stay tense and constricted and contracted, which ironically then affects my relationship, because then he can feel that. And, energetically, how does one respond to someone who feels, more edgy and irritable? They probably don't really want to be a part of that, or they might respond with irritability too, or if they're really taking care of themselves, they might just want to kind of, okay, let me give you your space and let you work this out. And sometimes that could even snowball into more of a downward spiral. So I'm telling you, these self-nourishment practices, that even if you don't feel like it, even if you're not in the mood for it, if you can remember the higher vision of who you want to be and how you want to show up in your life, let that be the fire under your ass that gets you to show up for your practices for yourself. And a liberated woman, ultimately, she has such a deep devotion to her heart's liberation that when she doesn't feel like it, she recognizes that she still wants to, because that is the higher vision that she is holding for herself. And she holds herself accountable to that. And that has a trickle effect on everything in her life. Number 3, the third thing that a liberated woman does in relationship is she reveals truth as it comes alive in her. Now, let's distinguish, though, the difference between feelings, your feelings and emotions, and your truth. Because there are 2 ways to really look at this. One, when I speak on little t truths and big T truths, the little t truth is valid. It's valid. It's completely valid. This is real to you as you're feeling it. God, do I know this experience firsthand. As I'm having an intense emotion, feeling things in my body, it's still real. It's still real in my body. I'm physically experiencing it. That's my ego's truth. That's my let's say perhaps my self-protecting truth, little t truth, as I'll call it. And it's still valid. I want to give it space. I want to allow it to speak to me and tell me, for my emotions to tell me, for my body to tell me, hey, here's what you need to pay attention to. Here's where there's an access point to healing this wound and softening that charge around it a little bit more. Sometimes we confuse this very real human feeling for the truth. And I hear a lot of times, okay, well, Lucy, what's the difference? What's the difference between the little t truth and the big T truth? And the best way that I can describe it is this. Your little t truth is tied to your ego's impulses and your ego's fears and what it perceives that it needs to just survive this thing right now. And we're not villainizing that. We're not making that bad or lesser than or less spiritual or whatever bullshit, because that is part of your spiritual experience. You chose to be human. This is part of it. This is part of it, babe. And as you give that space to exist, to be experienced, to be felt, to be honored, to wash over you like a wave, what you'll find is that the more that you can create space for that, again, in your personal practices as much as possible, as consistently as possible, what you'll begin to tap into is imagine that there's this distilled knowing. When you have gone through the flurry of emotions, you've passed through the chaos of the storm. Beneath all of that is a still knowing, a deep wisdom that you tap into. This is often accompanied by a sense of peace, a sense of exhale, like, this. That is your soul's knowing. That is your soul's truth. Big T truth. And the gift in that, the gift in bringing that into your relationship, once you have allowed space for all of the flurry of emotions, the cloud, the dust storm to settle. And then you see, okay, here's the deeper truth that's coming alive in me. Maybe you're not feeling met in your relationship. Maybe you have a discrepancy on how often you want sex. Maybe you feel undesired or undesirable, or you feel neglected in some way, emotionally, whatever that may be. Or maybe your partner's, not paying attention to the little things that that they know matter to you. And then you take that to interpret that they don't care, or that, oh my God, what's wrong with our relationship now? So allowing space for all of that to be felt, instead of coming at your partner with For example, like, hey, you're neglecting me. Like, my needs feel neglected. Even the I feel language, right? Even if when you shift it to that, I feel neglected. Until you have distilled the deeper truth, what is it that you are in the deeper level afraid of? And what is it on a deeper level that you really desire? Bring that truth. Yes, express your feelings. And the whole sharing my truth bit is incomplete without also accessing, hey, you know what? Yes, I feel neglected lately. I know you've been busy. Having the empathy, seeing it from their side, but also I'm afraid that, we're just going to kind of fall off into oblivion in our connection, and it's going to be like it was back in that season, or it's going to be like it is for so many of my friends who've been in relationships after having kids, and my desire is to have a vibrant relationship. My desire is to really feel like we see each other and we care deeply and we're a priority to each other. That's what I want, like really deep in my heart. That's what I want. That's what I'm here to experience, to create in this life, in this relationship. And when you express from that deeper truth, it hits completely different than when it's like, I just like, you don't care anymore and you're not, paying attention and you left the dishes out. And that's when we get caught up in our stories. And you spend enough time in that space, it's not like it's unrecoverable, but it takes quite a bit longer to unravel those stories. Imagine that you spent 20 years enrolled in your own stories about each other. It's going to take a bit of time to unravel that. It is possible. I've been there, and I've also helped lots of couples through that. But if you can nip it in the bud before it gets to that point, even better. Now, the fourth thing that a liberated woman does in relationship is she receives and gives love generously. She does not withhold. Now, this doesn't mean overextending yourself, even when your partner is checked out or clueless. Again, we're sharing those deeper truths, right? We're not expressing ourselves, but we're just checking in so much deeper. And in that process, we're also not withholding love. Now, what withholding love means to one person can be very different from what it means to another person and how it looks in their relationship. For me, if I were to withhold love because I'm not feeling like I'm having enough of his attention that day, it might look like me not looking him in the eyes as much, not pausing and just saying, hey, I appreciate you. Thank you for doing this today. It would look like me just not sending a lot of this warmth and loving energy to him as I'm passing by him in the kitchen. These little things that don't underestimate how much your partner does or doesn't feel, even if they don't say it, even if they're not consciously aware of it. If I am withholding my love, then I'm not touching him as much. I'm not giving him as much affection. And it doesn't feel good for me to withhold out of an egoic need to teach him a lesson. No, I'm like liberated women. We are beyond the need to teach our man a lesson. Are there consequences to some things? Yes. But I'm not going to withhold my love because I need to teach him a lesson and show him how painful it can be if I'm cold and withdrawn. No, that actually punishes me. That punishes me more than anybody, because then I am constricting the flow of love. Now, what I mean by consequence, like, do we sometimes, let's say, if we're not on the same page or we just need space to process on our own, do we have more space? Do we take more space? Do we create more space? Yes. And that is different from punishing each other by withholding love and presence. So this is something to really feel deeper into. What are the ways that you withhold love, or what might that look like in your expression? And recognizing that to be in your liberation as a woman is like, you don't need to play those games. There's no need to play those games. But at the same time, one of the ways that we cut off the flow of love is by not receiving. And so sometimes when we feel like just kind of more cold and withdrawn within ourselves, when we feel disconnected from ourselves, it can be hard to receive love too. So keep this in mind as well, to be open. And this might sound funny, but to be generous in how you receive. To be generous in how you receive. Just imagine that. What does that feel like? What does that feel like? I know it logically might not make sense, because usually we think generosity is about giving. But when you're generous about how you receive, and you recognize that as that person is giving, they are also receiving. When there is something that you want to give to someone and they actually are open to receiving it, it is a gift to you as well. So the liberated woman recognizes this. As I give love, I am receiving love. As my partner is giving love, they are receiving love. And allow this to be a fluid, a continuous flow of loving energy between you. And let that channel keep expanding, and let the flow keep getting stronger. And recognize that when you are withholding love from them as a means of punishment, you are only withholding love from yourself. There are a lot more rabbit trails that we can take on this one, but for the sake of time, I'm going to move on to number 5. The 5th thing that a liberated woman does in relationship is she lets herself need her partner. Yeah, she lets herself need him. I'm speaking to let's say a heterosexual relationship here, which is what I'm in. All right. So me letting myself need him is it's a very, not just a vulnerable thing, it's an empowered thing. I am confident enough in my inner feminine and masculine embodiment to let myself rely on my partner. It's not out of helplessness and desperation and lack and scarcity and fear, but out of empowerment, out of love, that we let ourselves need each other, that we say, hey, I'm not doing this alone. I refuse to cut off the flow of love to prove a point that I am so independent and so strong and so, I can do anything you can do, even better. I got nothing to prove. A liberated woman has nothing to prove by taking on more burden and not sharing the load with her partner. And also, she doesn't see it as a burden. Sharing the load, sharing the weight of something, if we're both carrying a heavy item into the house, practically speaking, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. We work as a team. I'm not going to try to suffer through maneuvering a big table through the door if I don't have to, just to prove that I'm strong. Believe me, I've done that. I did that for so many years. Like physically, in the physical things. Even when pregnant, the last time I was pregnant, nearly a decade ago, I would do certain things that it was like, nope, I need to prove to myself that I can do this even while largely pregnant. I can build this furniture. I can carry this. I can rearrange the living room. Like, what? Who was I trying to impress? Well, I was trying to, feel good enough in myself. That's what. And so I would not receive support. I would not acknowledge my needs. And then guess what happened? I would resent the other people for not meeting my needs, for not anticipating my needs, for not asking me, wait, can I help you with that? When they really just, yeah, she fucking wants to do that by herself for whatever reason. Okay, I'm going to let her because that's what she wants. And so to let ourselves need our partner requires such a level of security in ourselves, such a level of trust in our path in the universe, and such a degree of softness, which points back to how safe we feel in our own bodies. And so it's not just about letting ourselves be vulnerable with our partner, but really it's such a sign of embodiment, integration, and strength to let ourselves need each other. So now I'm like, yeah, babe, I need you. I need you right now. I'm not going to die if I don't get it. I can survive. I can find ways to cope. That's what coping mechanisms are for. It's not all bad. But if you have the option to get support, to co-regulate, to rewire patterns in your nervous system and in your neural pathways by connecting with another human being, especially that human being being your partner who is building a life with you, fuck yeah, do it. That is such a liberated thing to do, and it liberates more of your heart, softening the parts that are still clinging on to an expired way of being. So I would love to hear from you. Which of these are resonating with you? Which are you already doing and embodying, and which ones are you feeling like, okay, yeah, I think I'm ready to explore more of that, and try that on and see how it can flow in me, in my life. Email me at support@thewildawakening with thoughts or questions, or leave a comment here if you're listening on Spotify. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in to today's episode, and until next time, here's to liberating your wild feminine heart. I'm your little porn star, you bring the boom, I bring the bass, give me a taste, they me the waste. I'm your little plaything,